I get this question a lot, online, in emails, when I'm running errands. Hey, Pippin, how are you gonna finish the Earth in Minecraft 1-to-1 scale? I mean, we've been building for 2 years now, and we've built 100,000 buildings so far, and that's not just great. It might be the largest single thing ever made by a collective group in Minecraft already. And while all that hasn't been merged into a single world file yet, you can check out some of it on our Patreon. But the world has billions of buildings, I think. The internet isn't even sure how many buildings there are on Earth. These are some really interesting answers. Okay, I actually emailed this website, Emporia, and asked them how many buildings there are on Earth. They're based in Germany, so they're all asleep right now, but let's see if we get a response. Anyways, you see our conundrum. 2 years with 100,000 buildings is 50,000 buildings a year. If we go conservative and say the world has 4 billion buildings, you divide that by 50k per year, and you get 80,000 years to completion. Wow, that's more than an entire year. Granted, our 100,000 building count has been people focusing generally on atypical buildings. Those include skyscrapers, renowned architectural works of art, giant shopping malls, and landmarks. Suburban houses are easier, which make up the vast majority of the 4 billion building count, so with that in mind, we can cut this 80,000 year timeline into about half. That's a lot more manageable. But in all seriousness, the prospect of this can make people feel a bit dismal. But I want you to set that aside for a moment and just ask yourself this. What if we never finished? How would you feel about that? What if it actually took us hundreds or thousands of years? I wouldn't just be okay with that. That would be awesome. You know how many multi-generational projects humans have accomplished over the course of history? The pyramids, cathedrals, even farming land and family estates. We would pass the project down to our children. A lineage of virtual builders emerges as death no longer stops us from passing on skill developed over a lifetime to pass on to the next generation so they can push it further. Just imagine the legendary historical precedent a project like that would be setting. That would be amazing. Another question I get pretty commonly is, how will you finish when humanity builds infrastructure faster than they can build in Minecraft? This is a misunderstanding of our project. Okay, so when a builder finishes an area, that's a historical snapshot. You do not update it if a building is demolished or a new one is created, which means if we were to finish the project before 2030, it would be fully complete and not updated, meaning the world captured in Minecraft would eventually become a historical artifact of what the world was like in 2020 to 2030, a geographic holocron for future history classes. Just imagine if we had one of these for ancient Roman times. They didn't have Minecraft. That's beside the point though. Starting a 40,000 year project sounds awesome, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life grinding this towards 1% completion. There's a limit to what you can physically accomplish. How many hours can you spend on something in a day? Even limits to your own mental agility in being able to maintain productivity and maintaining your fastest pace for the majority of a day. There is a hard ceiling on the concept of working harder, but there's no ceiling or limitation to ingenuity. So when you find yourself to the point where you've hit a brick wall in the amount of productivity you can achieve in your current attack plan on any given project, you need to change the parameters and evolve. Work smarter. And to everyone invested in the dream of completing this project, I'll summarize this clearly. Unless we convince a nation's government to enslave their entire populace into working on this project for a few years, working hard isn't an option for completing this. Working smarter is the only parameter with which we can achieve victory. So I've prepared 3 general strategies of this, each with differing magnitudes in which it will affect the speed of the project so that it can become completable. Number 1, copy-paste. A minority of the houses on Earth are unique. House designs conceived by architects are reused by construction companies over and over and over and over again. To cover this up, they usually just swap out materials and colors, and also add a window here, a terrace there. And if you've built in this project and worked on a neighborhood, you'll know what I'm talking about. Some of you living in neighborhoods can just confirm the similarity yourselves. Once you've completed a building design, very often you'll find another building almost exactly like it, even facing the same direction. This allows you to copy and paste with World Edit, and in a few seconds, 80% of your work is done. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not facing the same direction, which necessitates having to use the rotate command, which can really destroy a copied structure, especially smaller ones. If we could develop a Build the Earth custom / rotate that minimized destruction and disorientation of rotated buildings, that takes into account how terrain orientation works in our projection, copy and pasting could be maximized, cutting the work we have to do at least in half. But in order to do that to its full capacity, you would have to be extremely efficient about it. A building schematic for a house in Seattle could have its identical copy all the way in New York. In order to prevent both of these buildings being built from scratch, we would need some sort of database or program that can recognize and affirm these matches so that when someone builds something, an accompanying mod in Minecraft lets them know of all the worldwide locations they could successfully paste it with minor modifications. But the way construction companies make these houses different in swapping out the building material and colors makes this very difficult to detect. Copying and pasting is extremely useful. If used to its fullest extent, it could possibly reduce the total workload for the project by 60% or more, but the detection of building pairs is extremely difficult for machines to do, and impossible for humans to search when considering the entire world. You remember this card matching game on Super Mario Bros. 3? It would be like that, but add billions of cards to the screen and change all the symbols to specific house orientations instead of the more recognizable mushroom or fire flower. Until a breakthrough in worldwide recognition between building similarities is made, this method is mostly applicable to when you notice a copy-paste opportunity in your local neighborhood, town, or city. Number 2. Coding build scripts. Okay, this one is insane. The process for building a house in this project is actually relatively straightforward. You start with your outline that you make from TPLLing points. You take a street view look to decide the material it's built out of. Once that's made, you stack it up to the height of the building from measuring it in Google Earth Pro. Then you create the roof from more TPLLing, add windows, make it street view level details, and you're good to go. But the strategies we use to build all these parts of a building are highly predictable depending on what it is. There's typical window patterns. For example, quartz stair to resemble the trim of the window while also having a window, which is done by putting white, gray, or black glass blocks behind it, and then blacking those out by putting black concrete behind that. That's one of half a dozen typical window designs that we use. So what if you created a script that automates all those steps if it's so predictable? And there's a user in Build the Earth doing exactly that. Brigard is a builder, coder, and member of Team Sys, who generally builds the territory of Russia, and he's been working on a script that doesn't just automate a shell, but most of the basic features of a building that you would want. You target a TPLL'd outline like this, and then you enter the specific fields exactly what you want, the building material, the height of the building, even the type of roof, being flat or slanted. Spending a few minutes entering in those parameters, then having the script generate the building shape saves an incredible amount of time. After that, you touch it up with a few atypical details that the script couldn't do, and then you're done. This saves an incredible amount of time, and it can reduce a building that would take an hour to create down to 5 minutes, depending on what it is. But the script is currently in its infancy stages, only being able to apply to some of the most simple structures, and unable to do the more complex slanted roofs that you so often see in suburban homes. But the potential of this is almost limitless. If this continues to be developed into a tool that could do 90% of the work of your buildings and correctly apply to 90% of the buildings on Earth, it could change the number of buildings that can be completed by a builder in one day from the current 10 to 20 to thousands or more. So let's get a little outlandish with our math. Let's say that the full potential of this allows a single builder to complete 10,000 suburban homes in one day. You have 1,000 builders completing 10,000 suburban homes in a day. That ends up being 10 million houses a day. You divide 4 billion by 10 million and the project is completed in only 400 days. Now, these are some insanely optimistic numbers, but it gives you an idea for the potential of how scripting can reduce the total project time. There's no limit to how smart the script can get or what it can apply to. It just takes effort and ingenuity to make it work with a larger and larger range of standing structures on Earth, increasing the number of buildings that can be completed per day to the point where these absurd 40,000 year estimates get down to decades or less, because there's almost no limit to automating in this way. Most of what we do when building suburbs is repeatable, from the walls to the roofs to the windows. And through smart coding, that time investment can be reduced by hundreds of factors and perhaps even more, which leads me to the final method. Number 3. AI. AI has been recognized by multiple movies as an apocalyptic force, but does AI in reality really live up to the hype? Yes. Yes, it does. Our computers can seemingly process and achieve things so much faster in comparison to us, summoning so much mental energy to just making decisions on what to do. It almost seems like our computers are the horse or sleigh dog with infinite energy and capability, while we're a slobbering drunk, barely conscious driver who can barely figure out what to do in time, let alone doing it at all, in comparison. But that's just the way it seems based on our interaction with technology. What's the actual comparison? It's insane. Biochemical circuits mirroring the the function of neurons can process information at least 1,000,000 times faster than actual neurons. That means if you were to create an AI with average human level intelligence at a fixed level that doesn't increase, it can still make 1,000,000 years of human level progress in 1 year. But we're talking about a fixed level of intelligence here, not factoring in the reality that an AI could be configured to make changes in its own source code, presumably to make itself even smarter. It's a runaway train effect that could easily bring about either the apocalypse or a galaxy-wide human techno-civilization. So why are we talking about this in a Minecraft video? If we had either of these, society explodes anyways, and we're building Dyson spheres that harness the majority energy output of the sun and time traveling in a moderate span of time sometime after this explosion. The entire Earth in Minecraft seems paltry in comparison. But we don't even have to get to this point in AI development. As explained previously about scripting and coding, most of what we do in this project is repeatable and replicable, which could be replicated by a system that can automatically create the changes we make in game to build the buildings. The next step to take that further is to create a program that can make those decisions. Goes into Street View on Google Earth, looks at the house and assigns the closest block type that matches the material, instead of us doing that and entering it into the parameter field of Brigard's script. It would take the remaining human level work that we do of finding the height, deciding the roof type, TPLLing points, and does it itself. And because these tasks do not require the more ethereal creative ingenuity that human brains are capable of that AI is still not yet, I believe the level of AI development to be able to make these decisions exists right now. It's just a matter of plugging these two technologies together, and then you can begin to automatically build neighborhoods. So that's the game plan I see moving forward. For me, it's all about the second step, coding scripts. With an advanced enough script, a house will no longer take an hour, but 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1. With that kind of speed developed, we can choose to have an AI drive the tools into automatically creating neighborhoods, or we can mass produce them ourselves. The point is that this speed will afford us a larger freedom in the project of creating seemingly endless completed areas and a removal of the anxiety from the prospect of us never being able to finish. These aren't easy goals, but I think they are 100% achievable. And as long as you do that, we'll have the tools to build the Earth in Minecraft to a degree never seen before. If you are heavily involved in any of these fields mentioned and think that you can help significantly with the development of these tools, I strongly recommend that you join the project, as these are the most pivotal and important roles that will change the game forever and bring us that much closer to accomplishing something previously never even imagined. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Worst thing that I got suspended for was in high school. I'm talking high school. Like, this is not little kid stuff. I was being rowdy with my friend in a classroom where, I'll tell you, this was a class that I didn't sign up for. It was one they put me in for, like, kids with learning disabilities, apparently. Even though I didn't have that, I just had like a minor problem. They were like, this kid needs more time to do his work, so we'll just give him this class. It's a class where basically you do nothing except work from other classes or sit on your phone all day. So I was in this class and I was being rowdy with my friend, and the teacher got pissed and she told me to move seats, and I was just not in the mood, so I didn't move seat. I just ignored her. I stopped talking to my friend. I stopped making noise, and I got into my work, but I refused to move. I was like, no way I'm moving seats. And enough time goes by and she calls the principal. She straight up calls the principal on me, and I'm just like, I don't give a crap. I'm staying in this seat. And then the principal shows up and she's like, come to the door, he wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I get up in my teenage angsty mood, acting as angsty as I possibly can to show them that I'm tired of their bullshit. And I come to the door and he's just like, all right, you're out of school for the day. I'm like, what? And he's like, any kid who doesn't do what their teacher tells them to me, they're out of this school. He was going full force. My crime was that I refused to move seats, and he suspended me, kicked me out of school for the day, and he was gonna call my parents and everything like that. And listen, my whole life I have been unabashedly a pussy, and I don't think I've ever been to a principal's office without immediately breaking down into tears. So I was grade 10, what is that, 15, 16 years old, and he brings me to the office and he just starts grilling me about respect or whatever. I can't remember what he was saying, but I'm just in a sobbing situation for not moving my seats. And eventually it convinced him enough. I guess he just saw my sad display, and it convinced him enough to instead give me an in-school suspension and not call my parents. He sends me to the library and he locks me in a room and I just do my work there all day instead of going to class.